Hi and welcome to the latest in our series of video tutorials introducing you to the basics of Python programming. This is a follow-up to our previous video on loops, and if you haven't seen that video yet, I suggest you watch that one before having a go at what I show you in this one. And there should be a link to the previous one at the top of the screen somewhere. So if you're still here and you want to learn a bit more about loops, let's go. Here on the screen you can see really quite nice pattern that I've made in Python Turtle, and I've chosen this pattern because it illustrates really clearly and well how useful something called a nested loop actually is. This is the kind of pattern which, if you didn't use loops, this would take a very long time and a lot of code to make. And so what we're hopefully going to demonstrate is that nested loops can make a really powerful way of producing really quite fantastic pieces of work. So we'll have a look at this in Mu and show you how this program was created. Right, so we're back in Mu now, and I'm going to show you the start of this program working. Obviously I'm not going to show you the whole shape being drawn because it would take a long time, but hopefully this is going to demonstrate what's happening. Don't worry about the code. There's a couple of lines in this program that you're not going to need to use, but I've put them in to slow down what's happening so that you can see how the program works. So if I run our code, you can see what we've got here. We've got a square being drawn just like we did last week with our loop program, and at the end of each loop the pen rotates, the turtle rotates 5 degrees and then draws another square and another one, and so you can see, notice each time just turns very slightly and draws another square, and that process will happen 100 times. So it's going to draw 100 squares and rotate that turtle after each square. Now imagine how long that would take to do. Even if we were using a loop to create our original square, we'd have to repeat that section of code 100 times. It would take a really long time and you'd have a massive program which is really wasteful, really inefficient, really time consuming. So instead we're going to use more loops to help us create that pattern. So we'll stop that program now and hopefully we can see how it works. So we're going to go back to our program from last week, and this is the one where we drew a very simple square. I'm just going to make some little adjustments to this one so it looks how we want it to. So this is the program that we introduced loops with last week that just draws a square using a loop. So if I run it, there you go, one square drawn using our draw line loop. So a little reminder, we created a loop which would count and run 4 times. We use draw line to count how many times the loop has run, and then all the things we want to happen inside that loop are here, indented. These lines of indented code here, and both those lines of code will run 4 times. So what we want to do is run this code 100 times. We want to draw 100 squares. So rather than just copy and paste those lines 100 times, I'm going to create another loop. So I'm going to put that here. I'm going to call this one draw square. So for draw square, whoops, in range 100. Now what you might notice here is that both these lines are at the same level. That line isn't indented and it needs to be indented. Even if I'm using another for loop, which I am, I need that to be indented because I want this line to run inside our main loop. So I'm just going to press the tab key to indent it, and now of course I need to indent both of those lines as well. So now I've got 2 sets of indents. I've indented this because this is the beginning of my second loop, and those are the lines that are running inside it, so they have to be indented as well. So this isn't going to quite do what we want, but we're going to run it anyway just to show you now what we've got. And you can see now that we've got a program that is drawing 100 squares, but it's drawing the square in the same position each time. So that isn't really what we wanted, because that doesn't give us the interesting pattern. We need to do something else each time the square is finished. So what we haven't done is rotate the turtle a little bit more. So I'm going to go here I'm going to go to the end of, I want this to take place after I've drawn each square, so after that loop's finished. So I'm going to put another line in. I'm going to do T right, and then I'm just going to put 5, just 5 degrees. It doesn't have to be 5, you could try other values, you'll get different effects, just see what happens when you do it. So now I've got a loop that runs inside my main loop of 100, and then when that loop is finished, when that square is drawn, it turns the turtle right, goes back to here, assuming that it's still running, and draws another square and then rotates it again. So this process happens 100 times, and this is called a nested loop. It's a loop inside a loop, and when we run nested loops, it's always the inner loop that executes or that finishes first. So each time you'll notice it completes one of these before it starts the next one of these. So let's just run the program to see that that works. And there you go, you can see that it does indeed work. Each time it's drawn a square, it rotates the turtle and draws another square, and that will continue for 100 times. So hopefully what that demonstrates is just how powerful and flexible nested loops are. And you could, if you wanted to, put a loop within a loop within a loop. You can keep nesting your loops as many times as you like, but I'd suggest you kind of stick with 2 while you're practicing this. And that's the next step, is to go and have a go at this yourself and see what you can create. There are limitless patterns that you can create by making use of loops and drawing different shapes and trying different angle turns and different numbers of the shapes that you draw. Just see how you get on and have fun. Good luck.